It was getting dark. Zhang Yi was holding a bowl of hot noodles while observing Mrs. Lin's house. People were bringing supplies to her. Seeing this, he said, "Some people really are easy to deceive, delivering things to her, haha." Then he raised the bowl of noodles to eat while reflecting. The supplies at home can only last for 3 or 4 days at most. With a low temperature, food will wear out very quickly. But them voluntarily bringing it to the door has nothing to do with me. He looked outside at the snow-filled air and reaffirmed, "The outside has already fallen into chaos. Only with supplies can one survive. Otherwise, one can only wait to die." Mrs. Lin's phone received a message from the residents group of the apartment complex. One person messaged 1502, "Lin Chun and Aunt Lin, you said that after getting the supplies, we would share evenly. I've already eaten everything at home, and it's been 2 days. Please let us take a little." Another person added, "That's right, we agreed to share so that everyone has food to eat." Mrs. Lin, wrapped in a blanket with her grandson sitting on the sofa, said smugly, "Those fools. This food is all mine." And she laughed and continued, "I worked hard to deceive these supplies. How could I let you take any?" Mrs. Lin's phone on the table rang. Her grandson quickly said, "Grandma, the phone." Mrs. Lin looked at the phone and asked, "Those fools, are they just now becoming aware?" Lin Chun picked up the phone, panic-stricken at seeing the caller was Chen Zhenghao. Chun was worried, unsure of what he wanted. She answered the call, anxiously putting the earpiece to her ear. Chen Zhenghao joked, "Hello, Mrs. Lin, you really have some skill to take everyone's supplies into your own hands." Mrs. Lin cleared her throat twice and replied confidently, "I am a good person and an official of the neighborhood committee. Managing everyone's supplies is my responsibility." Hearing this, Chen Zhenghao sneered. "Ha ha, that's great. Our house is currently short on supplies, so bring the supplies to my house." Mrs. Lin refused, "But I need to account for and process these supplies first. Furthermore, there are still some people who haven't delivered their supplies, so I can't distribute them yet." Her grandson, Tio, who was chewing a piece of cake, listening to everything. Chen Zhenghao shouted angrily, "Old lady, don't speak lightly and think I won't listen. Those things were taken by you for yourself, right?" Beside Chen and Zhenghao were his subordinates, ready to fight at any moment. He confidently continued, "I'll tell you this, you obediently hand over the goods to me. Otherwise, I and over a dozen people from my family will personally come to your house to take them." Those who had previously been doused with cold water by Zhang Yi had now regained their spirits. At this moment, they were no different from bloodthirsty demons. Chen Zhenghao spoke quickly and acted even faster. Soon after, he dragged a group of pale-faced people in Mrs. Lin's door, pushed it open, and entered. Lin Chun felt scared and shouted, "You can't come in. You're illegally trespassing." Chen Zhenghao approached her and slapped her hard in the face, saying, "Because you deceived our neighbor to take their supplies, I am acting on behalf of everyone to do what's right." Zhang Yi was eating a sausage while watching the scene at Mrs. Lin's house. He said, "Ha ha ha, it's starting to get heated." Then suddenly he snapped his fingers as an idea came to him. "How about sending this picture to the apartment complex chat group so everyone can see it?" He laughed with delight, swiped the screen and said, "The reactions of those people are sure to be spectacular." At this moment, Mrs. Lin had slumped down from the painful slap. Chen Zhenghao's followers, armed, entered the house. Chen Zhenghao pointed and ordered, "Search everything. Take all the food and drinks in this room. These are things that the neighbors worked hard to gather, and we can't let her profit from it." Mrs. Lin, despite her bruised face, struggled to crawl to Chen Zhenghao's feet, clinging to them and insisting, "You can't take everything. There is food in there that our family has stored for ourselves. If you take it all, how will my grandson and I survive?" Chen Zhenghao coldly looked down at the woman and irritably said, "What does that have to do with me? Let go." Lin Chun still clutched at his leg, crying and pleading, "Please give us a way to survive. I'm begging you." Chen Zhenghao did not feel pity. On the contrary, he felt hatred. He kicked her and shouted, "Get out of here." Mrs. Lin collapsed onto the floor, her face covered in wounds. Xiao, who stood frozen pale, watching his grandmother being tormented. Grabbing a small knife, his face filled with rage, the boy yelled, "You thugs, get out of here." As he spoke, he stabbed a blond man carrying supplies in the rear. The man trembled all over, drenched in sweat, his eyes wide, one hand holding his backside, the other clenched, shaking as he shouted, "You want to die, don't you?" Then he stepped forward and kicked Xiao hard, shouting, "If you want it, I'll help you." The boy was violently knocked to the ground. The others stood watching and mocked, "Ha ha ha, when did you learn that impressive kick?" The bald young man added, "And you kicked this little brat away, really impressive." The bald young man patted the blonde guy who had just thrown the knife behind him and smugly said, "Nice job. We should have captured that scene earlier." Mrs. Lin approached her unconscious grandson, her hands trembling as she touched him and sobbed, "Xiao, my dear grandson." Chen Zhenghao saw this scene, spat to the side, and said, "Life is indeed worth living. From young to old, they're not the kind of decent people at all." Then he, along with his underlings, carried supplies outside, resting a stick on his shoulder, and said, "This is the price when she deceives and takes supplies from her neighbors. I'm just doing the right thing." Zhang Yi recorded the encounter between Lin Chun and Chen Zhenghao, then sent it to the group chat. Someone messaged back, "Ha ha ha, what a fraud. Nice job." Shining also praised Chen Zhenghao as a hero, messaging the group, "Brother Zhenghao's so cool. For someone like this, strong measures like that should be used." Zhang Yi read the messages and realized that these people completely lacked awareness of the root of the problem. Another person also messaged to praise Zhenghao. "If it weren't for Brother Zhenghao, we wouldn't know how to deal with shameless and corrupt people like that old lady." There were also those who expressed concern, warning the cold-hearted person, "Brother Zhenghao, be careful with the shameless old lady. She might report you to the police." Zhang Yi pondered for a moment and said seriously, "If he can barge into Grandma Lin's house to rob today, sooner or later he will barge into your houses." After saying that, he regained his usual expression, spread his arms to the sides, and said, "Unfortunately, this has nothing to do with me." Suddenly, Mrs. Lin messaged the group pleading, "Does anyone have hemostatic medicine, antibiotics, and anti-infection medicine? My grandson was injured by Chen Zhenghao. Dr. Zhao is performing surgery and urgently needs these medicines." Zhang Yi was quite surprised and wondered, could this doctor be Zhou Kai Ne? Is she planning to operate on Xiao Hu? Zhou Kai Ne was a girl with long purple hair and pink eyes, looking very attractive. She messaged the group saying, "For now, I have stopped Xiao Hu's wound from bleeding, but this is only an emergency measure and won't last long. If anyone has other medicines, you can come to me if you are sick." Zhang Yi sat reading the messages, smiling to himself, and thought, she is the doctor from the top-renowned hospital in Tiananhai City. In her previous life, thanks to her medical skills, she saved many people and was considered one of the few good people in this neighborhood. Lin Chun messaged the group, "My Xiao Hu needs medicine to save his life. I bow my head and beg everyone." Chen Zhenghao saw this and sneered, "How do you bow your head?" Bowing in a chat group. Then he sent the laughing emoji. Others also ridiculed Mrs. Lin. "Dr. Zhao is saving your grandson because she is kind-hearted. On what basis should we help you? Based on the fact that you tricked everyone to take your supplies? Helping is a kindness, not helping is a duty. Don't be bound by morality, or grandson was beaten as a result of what you did." Zhang Yi read through the messages and shook his head in confusion. A cold-hearted person like this, yet today, because of Xiao Hu, has spoken up in the apartment group chat. He thought, indeed, a doctor is as kind-hearted as a second mother or father. Then he wondered, but what happens after saving that boy? The snowstorm still continues, the outside is paralyzed, and we can't hold on for long. Some people on the first floor of the apartment looked outside and saw the weather getting worse, and they complained, "What now? The snow is about to bury the first floor." One person in the house, pale and trembling, shouted, "The news says this is the biggest snowstorm in thousands of years. What will it ultimately turn into?" The snowstorm had lasted for a week. The whole world was buried in the snowstorm, and in some northern cities, the temperature even dropped below -100 degrees. The snowfall did not decrease and extended for many days. Many cities were buried, and those who did not manage to evacuate found themselves under thick layers of snow. In the apartment group chat, Mrs. Lin, still familiar with the old ways, continued trying to deceive everyone. "I am an official from the neighborhood committee, and I ask everyone to hand over supplies. If you don't, it is a violation of the rules and will be penalized. Are you really going to watch someone die without helping? Xiao Hu hasn't eaten anything for a long time. I beg you all to save him. He is just a child. Does anyone have food? My grandson and I haven't eaten anything for 2 days. I can buy supplies at a high price." A girl felt sorry for Mrs. Lin and replied, "I still have a few packs of instant noodles at home. If needed, I can sell them to you for $1,000 per pack." Someone else immediately replied, "I'll pay $2,000. How many packs do you have? I'll buy them all." The program was eating chicken legs when he read the message and scoffed. "Oh, something interesting is about to happen." The others in the group chat also read the message. Some were surprised. "A pack of instant noodles for $2,000. I can't be seeing this wrong, can I?" Some complained, "You guys shouldn't drive the prices of supplies so high." Others were confused. "Don't joke. Is this world really at the end of days? It's just a slightly big snowstorm, not a zombie apocalypse invading the city." Zhang Yi coldly said, "To compare this snowstorm with a zombie situation is truly naive." Chu Hao stood up, walked outside to look at the freezing atmosphere, and recorded, "I have money. I'm spending it to buy peace of mind. Is that okay? If anyone agrees to sell, just message me privately. If not, then go somewhere else. Shubhao pondered while looking at his phone and thought, traffic and equipment in the whole city are paralyzed. I need to quickly buy supplies from the poor while money still has value. A girl messaged back, hey, what's wrong with you? My family has nothing to eat. Buy food to save lives. Zhang Yi smirked. I'm not robbing you. I'm just offering a higher price. Who people sell to is their own freedom. You can't control that. The girl was anxious, holding her child with one hand and texting with the other. Please help us. My daughter is just 9 months old, and if I don't eat, there won't be any milk for her. Who will starve to death? Zhang Yi read the message, sneered, and thought to himself, a single mother begging for help with her 9-month-old daughter. Once someone assists, they will definitely be drawn into trouble. But strangely, Zhang Yi's expression changed a bit. In her past life, she and her daughter endured for a long time. Perhaps she's not as simple as she appears. 10 days later, while Zhang Yi was lifting weights, the phone rang. At this time, everyone must have run out of supplies. He smirked as he picked up the phone, turned the camera to showcase the abundant food behind him, and sarcastically said, why are you video calling me? You all look thin now, huh? Congratulations, congratulations. On the other side were Fang Wuting and Sha Ning, their eyes wide and mouths watering, unable to believe what they saw as Zhang Yi had so much food. Sha Ning explained, how come you have so much food at home? Did you stockpile it before? Fang Wuting also asked, your place looks very cozy, but why are you still sweating? Zhang Yi calmly replied, these are just leftovers. When I'm too lazy to cook, I take them out to eat. He pointed the phone at the blazing fire, his face showing discomfort. Keep talking, and besides, my house has heating walls. It's very warm. It's so hot in here, it's uncomfortable. Fang Wuting opened her bright round eyes, took her phone, flattered, and suggested, Zhang Yi, you are really amazing, preparing everything so well. I admire you so much. Can you let me come to your house to see? Her words froze Sha Ning's face, making it full of confusion. On the video call, Wu Ting smiled wide. We hadn't seen each other for a long time. Wu Ting misses you a lot. Wu Ting thought to herself, I have to trick him into giving me something to eat first, then I can plan the next steps. He felt a bit uncomfortable and moved the phone screen a little farther away. It's so cold, you should stay home and rest. Zhang Yi felt disgusted. I must have had a problem with my head in the past, otherwise why would I stubbornly pursue a girl like this for 2 years? He continued, though I don't know how cold it is outside, looking at the two of you, the temperature must be very low. Wu Ting got angry upon hearing this. Zhang Yi, don't be so unreasonable. We are suffering from hunger and cold. He won't help us. That's fine. But don't make sarcastic comments. Zhang Yi smirked. Ha ha ha. You can't pretend anymore with just this. You come to me when there are benefits. Why don't I see you reaching out to those rich guys? You girls can pretend to be sweet, but don't think I'm an idiot. Zhang Yi, shut your mouth. Wu Ting shouted. Zhang Yi didn't care and instead provoked her further. Aren't I just speaking the truth? Why are you so agitated? We are not that close. Why should I help? On the other end of the phone, Wu Ting's angry voice echoed, you son of a bitch. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi hung up. Wu Ting furiously threw the phone aside. Damn it. Who do you think you are daring to insult me? Lin Shengning, beside her, didn't console her, but instead added fuel to the fire. Isn't it because you didn't hold on to him tightly before? Otherwise, we could have enjoyed the benefits of Zhang Yi's home too. She picked up her own phone and pressed the button to call Zhang Yi. Now he is much stronger than these rich people, and yet he still pretends to be noble. Now that he's been exposed, he's really acting like he's all high and mighty. Wu Ting yelled, Lin Shengning, do you want to die? After a brief struggle, the two fell onto the bed and continued arguing incessantly. At the same time, at Zhang Yi's home, he was leisurely having dinner, drinking wine, and watching the news. The report announced the official statement from the city of Tianhai. To meet the electricity demand of the people, power will be cut off daily from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. High-power electrical devices cannot be used. Only small devices like kettles and phones can be used. Currently, major power plants are temporarily shut down, and there is a power shortage. We ask everyone to actively conserve electricity to avoid large-scale power outages for extended periods. Zhang Yi took a sip of wine and reached for the tablet on the table. The extent of the damage caused by the natural disaster is something the government ultimately cannot hide. He opened the neighborhood chat group, and everyone was buzzing with discussion. Has everyone seen the news? They've started cutting off power entirely, so the rumors online are true. What are the people outside doing at this point? My house has even had its pipes freeze. I still have instant noodles. Anyone want some? $5,000 a pack. Zhang Yi sighed, knowing full well that the world is in a state of apocalypse. Things like currency are almost useless, yet people are still trading life-saving supplies. Outside, the snowstorm raged. The days passed, taking hope with them. But no one wanted to die. Even if it meant living in desperation, they had to grit their teeth and carry on. In another house, an elderly woman was taking care of her sick grandchild. Xiao, don't sleep. If you go, how am I supposed to explain to your parents? At a clinic, a female doctor was holding a male patient's legs in exchange for necessary supplies so that they could persist a little longer. Wu Ting and Lin Shengning had recently been living in a rundown environment with poor living conditions. Both were dirty from not showering for days, sitting back to back, seemingly still at odds since the incident the other day. Lin Shengning spoke up. What are you planning to do now? The whole world is suffering from a snowstorm. No one can go outside. Right now, apart from Zhang Yi, who else can we expect anything from? Wu Ting thought for a moment and suggested, if it comes to that, then we should deal with Zhang Yi and then take over his room. She picked up the phone and dialed Zhao Ping's number. Just the two of us isn't enough, but we can't let too many people know about this. As the door opened, Wu Ting saw Zhao Ping walk in. She immediately burst into tears. Zhang Yi is a wicked person who bullies others. Relying on your family's delicious food and drinks, he still deliberately humiliates me, wanting me to sleep with him. Zhao Ping was immediately furious upon hearing this, clenching his fists, his anger boiling. Zhang Yi is truly worthless, daring to do this to you. Now I have to kill him. Wu Ting looked seductive, filled with affection, and intimately hugged Zhao Ping's arm, making his face flush. Zhao Ping, let's figure out a way to take over his room, and then we can stay there together. What do you think? Zhao Ping seized the opportunity to assert himself. Don't worry, I'll handle this. Wu Ting linked arms with him as they left, but not forgetting to remind him. But you must be careful. Zhang Yi is selfish and shameless. He will definitely retaliate. We need to bring weapons and strike first to gain the advantage. Lin Shengning walked decisively behind them, saying, I think we should just beat him to death. Moments later, they arrived in front of Zhang Yi's apartment 2401. Wu Ting carried a baseball bat, while Zhao Ping and Lin Shengning each held a cleaver. The three nodded to each other. Zhao Ping knocked on Zhang Yi's door and tested the waters. Zhang Yi, are you home? This is Zhao Ping. Zhang Yi, inside, looked through the security camera and seen Zhao Ping suddenly coming to find him. Wondered if he came to see me. It surely can't be anything good. At that moment, he also saw Lin Shengning and Wu Ting standing at the door holding weapons. Zhang Yi immediately sensed that something was wrong. He gritted his teeth and thought, you think you can kill me just with the three of you? Outside, unaware that Zhang Yi had discovered their intention, Zhao Ping continued to call. Zhang Yi, this is Zhao Ping. I've run out of food at home, and out of consideration for us being colleagues, I have some fever-reducing medicine to trade with you. Is that okay? Zhang Yi looked around the kitchen, took some water from the sink, and put it into a rubber hose. He saw a pot full of dirty water mixed with trash and leftover food, and suddenly came up with a clever idea. Fever-reducing medicine, huh? I'm sorry, but let me think about it for a moment. Zhao Ping, holding a cleaver, pretended to be patient and said, That's fine. I'm about to starve to death. We are colleagues, so it's better for you to gain than letting someone else do so. Hurry up and open the door. Zhang Yi stepped to the door, opened the mail slot, and stuck the rubber hose out. Okay, I'll be right there. The three people outside were readying themselves, prepared to attack as soon as the door opened. Come on then. But before they could do anything, a pile of slimy liquid splashed onto their faces. Lin Shengning trembled and shouted, Holy shit, what is this? Wu Ting raised his hand to his nose to smell and suddenly stammered. This is trash, leftover food. Lin Shengning and Wu Ting hurried to the corner of the wall, throwing up in disgust. Zhao Ping, furious, banged on the door, shouting, Zhang Yi, get out here! I'll kill you! Zhang Yi, inside, laughed loudly and shouted back, Didn't you just say you were about to starve to death? I'm treating you to some leftovers and you can't even thank me. The three of them were stunned. Zhao Ping raised a sharp cleaver high, its blade shining in the dark night to intimidate. Just wait. Once I get inside, if I don't kill you, then I'm not human. Then he thrust the knife hard into the door, stabbing repeatedly. Yet as soon as his hand touched it, a jolt of electricity shot through, coursing into his flesh, causing him to fall to the ground. He writhed around, screaming in pain. Zhang Yi watched everything unfold outside through the camera screen, grinning smugly, another one who isn't afraid of death. Then he lay back, propping his feet on the table, laughing. If I can avoid going outside, I definitely will. Thousands of times more danger will pour onto your heads just to make you furious. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed, startling Zhang Yi awake from his dream. He sat up in bed, feeling a bit uneasy. There were people with guns in this building. He reached for the tablet, intending to check the situation on the upper floor. Chen Zhenghao was still alive. A screen displayed the corridor of the apartment complex, where three men were packing up their things. It appeared to be Chen Zhenghao and his two subordinates. On the floor lay a small basin, which had been cut off from water supply. Basically, everyone had gone outside to shovel snow, waiting for it to melt for drinking water. Chen Zhenghao and his gang were waiting for this very opportunity. Zhang Yi muttered cautiously and continued to observe their actions on the screen. Then he laid back down on the bed, propping his hands behind his head as a pillow and placing the tablet back on the bedside table. The person on the third floor must be dead. The supplies were robbed and they were shot. If they weren't dead, they certainly wouldn't last much longer. Chen Zhenghao's subordinate asked him, "Brother Zhenghao, we have taken everything. What should we do next?" Chen Zhenghao, holding his phone, replied, "No need to rush. Let's show some power." He then instructed his subordinates to message the group chat of the apartment complex, where everyone was already in chaos, increasing their confusion even more. The snowstorm has besieged the city for so long, we can't rely on anyone but ourselves. Starting now, I, Chen Zhenghao, will take responsibility as the head of Building 25. From now on, everything here will be decided by me. If you obey me, I can let you all live. Anyone who dares to disobey, ha ha ha. Accompanying this was two photos. One was Chen Zhenghao holding a gun with a smile. The other was the scene of the shooting on the third floor. Zhang Yi brushed his teeth while looking at his phone and muttered, "Chen Zhenghao is really excellent. No wonder he could roll around like a kite in the wind in this society." His expression was grim. Bullets and the number of underlings are ultimately limited. He can't confront the whole building, so he used a mix of force and persuasion to make everyone wary and afraid. He frowned and created another chat group named Anti-Chen Zhenghao Group. In the group, they discussed that Chen Zhenghao was indeed a demon, having shot dead 3 families, all of whom had their doors broken in. The people in room 301 were 2 hot-tempered young individuals who planned to resist but were shot dead by him. The other 2 families in rooms 302 and 401 were so frightened that they surrendered all their food and drink at home. Everyone in the group said they must unite to resist this kind of evil. Some were worried because he had a gun, but the leader of the group expressed a fearless attitude. "How many bullets can one gun have? If we charge together, he won't be able to withstand it." Zhang Yi wiped his face with a towel. Is this wanting to start a rebellion? After all, he is a fugitive, and he has a few thugs with him. We need a long-term plan. That's right. To put an end to the barbaric behavior of these thugs, we must use our intelligence to win. He smiled, thinking to himself, it really seems like a fight is about to break out, yet they say we need to use our intellect to win. Just now it was so heroic, probably hoping to get others' blood rushing to their heads to block the bullets. Suddenly someone said something in the group, causing the smile on Zhang Yi's face to vanish. We can't let Chen Zhenghao and his gang keep on like this. If it continues, everyone will get killed by him. Even if we don't get shot, we'll end up having all our food and supplies robbed. Isn't that still death? Uncle Wang added, I can lead everyone. Come with me and teach those trashy people how to be human. Everyone immediately chimed in enthusiastically. Wang Ji Guang, I support you. Do you need any weapons? I can lend you my kitchen knife. Chen Zhenghao is a scum person. How about this? Find an opportunity to stab him from behind. Don't give him a chance. There are 5 or 6 people in Chen Zhenghao's group and they have guns. I can't go alone. I need at least a dozen strong young men with me to ensure safety. An account named Liu Dian spoke up firmly. No way, Mrs. Lin, the neighborhood commissioner, has already swindled all our supplies. Who knows if Wang Ji Guang can be trusted? Shortly after, there was a long voice message lasting 8 minutes. That old woman tricked us out of all the supplies that help keep everyone alive. If you take those still able to fight to surrender to Chen Zhenghao, what will happen to the elderly, children, and women? The group immediately erupted into fierce debate, splitting into 2 factions, those in favor and those against Wang Ji Guang's plan. The supporters argued, if we don't resist, are we just going to wait for Chen Zhenghao to handle each household one by one? If we don't unite, it's only a matter of time before we are picked off one by one. The proactive attacks were labeled as, the opposing faction is a bunch of cowards afraid of life and death. The opposing faction shot back, Liu Dian is absolutely right. Who knows if Wang Ji Guang is actually a spy sent by Chen Zhenghao to lure the enemy? Anyone who wants to go can go. If we are called cowards, then if we rush in and get wiped out, who will protect our families? After all, someone like Chen Zhenghao won't be able to hold out for long. Zhang Yi stirred the pot of food, sighing in helplessness. I really had too high expectations of them. They are already scattered and divided into factions. He served the food onto a plate and brought it to the living room. Even now, they were still pushing blame onto each other. Most of these people wouldn't escape punishment, even if they died. He took a bite and immediately had to blow on it to cool it down, fanning his hand to alleviate the heat. It was too hot. In another room in the apartment, a voice echoed in the darkness. Chen Zhenghao, gun in hand, urged his subordinates. You all are as slow as turtles. Are you waiting to eat? Get moving. His henchman was holding the seemingly lifeless man under his arm, anxiously saying, Brother Zhenghao, perhaps we should let this go. The others in this building must still have food. It shouldn't come to this with our own kind. Chen Zhenghao didn't say much, pressing the gun's barrel against the head of the henchman and threatening. Stop talking nonsense. If I tell you to get rid of it, then you get rid of it. The person is already dead. You don't want to end up like them, do you? Seeing Chen Zhenghao's serious demeanor, the henchman quickly agreed. Don't. Brother Zhenghao is absolutely right. Since the person is dead, we should make the most of it. Using them could help us live longer, which is a good thing. Chen Zhenghao lowered his voice a little, speaking more gently. Good, now that you understand, don't make me waste my time. Still holding the gun, Chen Zhenghao observed as his henchman slowly left. If he didn't have the gun in his hand, these people might not completely follow his orders. Only by eating together could they be considered in the same boat. Zhang Yi continued to eat while monitoring the situation through the security cameras in the apartment complex. Shen Zhenghao was indeed cruel, leaving the body right at the door. Most likely this was a preparation, because if there was no food, he would use them as food. He stretched himself to relax his joints. If he really angered me, I would look for an opportunity to kill him. The next day, there was a new message in the chat group. Someone was crying and pleading for others to come and save her. She was right below Chen Zhenghao's house. They were banging on her door. That person tagged Wang Jiguang. Uncle Wang, please come and save me. Aren't you a retired soldier? They definitely won't be able to fight you. Those people can't be trusted. They're too vicious. Everyone needs to unite. If something happens to me, the next person will be you. Her fearful expression looked outside. Bang! The door was thrown open and a figure appeared. The girl hid behind the sofa, loudly sobbing and pleading. No, please spare me. All the food in my house is for you. Spare me. In the blink of an eye, she was dragged outside, screaming for help at the top of her lungs. The screen continued to flash with new messages. The turtle finally gets caught. Retribution has come, right? Just in time, the one who starts must die. Great. Take a moment for everyone. Wu Ting read the message with a hint of unease. No, we definitely have to think of a way. We can't stay like this forever. Chen Jinghao and that scum can target another woman, and sooner or later they will come for us. Lady Shenning asked back, then what other way is there? We can't go to Zhang Yi's house. We will soon end up like Liu Dan. Wu Ting anxiously bit her nails and said, there are reports that Zhang Yi has supplies for trustworthy people at home. Let's form an alliance and take over his place. On Zhang Yi's side, he noticed a new group chat added named Squad Help Each Other. Wu Ting tagged him, Zhang Yi. Right now, it's very dangerous outside. Chen Zhenghao will sooner or later come to our place. Everyone needs to separate. We are lacking a good stronghold. Your house has a balcony, and the anti-theft door is very sturdy. We hope you can join our group. Zhang Yi pressed the record button for the voice message. It seems Wu Ting has already informed them about the situation here. The opening wasn't bad. He didn't even ask who had injured his leg. I don't need it, thanks. I'm quite comfortable being alone right now. If I want someone to stay with me, I would find someone with a higher position. You don't need to waste too many brain cells to see that these people are just plotting against you. They can't really think this trick can work on me, can they? Zhao Ping said, Zhang Yi, now everyone is in danger of losing their lives. You can't just look at what's in front of you like that. Only if everyone stays together can we survive. Lin Shenning added, it's just because your room has a balcony, convenient for collecting snow for water, that everyone chose your house. We all benefit, and everyone can also protect you. Wu Ting said, I admit we begged you, but think about it. If you let us take refuge in your house, you could save 7 to 8 lives. Are you really so heartless to watch us get killed by Chen Zhenghao? We've been friends and neighbors for so many years. Zhang Yi came to the point where he couldn't bear to listen to their reasoning anymore. At this stage, whether one lives or not depends on one's own abilities. You have no value to me at all. On what basis do you demand that I let you stay? After saying this, he immediately left the group. The people involved in Wu Ting's plan were surprised after watching him leave. What? Wu Ting said angrily. How shameless. We are all acquaintances, yet he can say such heartless things. Wang Min said, for my cousin's sake, I agree to let you stay here now. Moreover, you all promised that you could persuade Zhang Yi to let us stay in his house. Right now, he basically has no intention to do so. What are we going to do about this? Sun Zaichao gently pushed his glasses up and said, for these kinds of people, we don't need to be too polite. After all, he is alone in his house. We'll surround him, get ready, and break in to take him down. Lu Tao immediately agreed. Let's do it that way. A selfish person like him doesn't deserve to be in a nice room like this. He snorted indifferently, boasting. I used to work for a lock-picking company. This kind of thing is like a horse on the old road. I can open any kind of lock commonly used in the market. Wu Ting said happily. That's great. As long as we can open the anti-theft door, with so many of us rushing in, let me see how we can resist. They immediately put their words into action. That day, they gathered in front of Zhang Yi's room. Lu Tao bent down and did his best to pick the lock while the others surrounded him, closely watching. Wu Ting and Lin Shui-ning even brought 2 umbrellas in case anything happened, like last time. Wu Ting smiled contentedly. Besides spraying water, he doesn't have any other tricks he can use. While using his lock-picking tools, Lu Tao thought to himself, once we break in and you're done for, Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was inside the house, watching the situation outside through the security camera. He could only smile sarcastically. Lock-picking a break-in, the security door is equipped with 5 layers of defense comparable to the anti-theft doors in a bank's vault. If it can be broken in so easily, then wouldn't I have wasted my money? He pressed the button to activate the high-voltage defense function. A strong electric current suddenly shot out from the door, striking Lu Tao and causing him to scream in horror as everyone watched. He was jolted so violently that his face contorted and his pupils shrank to the maximum size, leaving him only able to weakly moan, "Help! Help me!" Then he screamed once more. After that, he collapsed to the ground, his body charred black, faint sparks still crackling on him, his eyes rolled back white and lifeless. Wu Ting watched the scene before him, almost wanting to fly outside and yell, "Ah!" Sun Zichao, agitated, pounded on the door and shouted, "Zhang Yi, inhuman scum! Get out here now! We were originally planning to negotiate the living situation with you calmly. How could you kill someone without saying anything? Now that Lu Tao is dead, how do you plan to explain this to us?" Zhang Yi had pulled out a crossbow and mounted it on the door. He said calmly, "What's the fun in pretending like this? After you break the lock and come in, your next step will be to kill me or drive me out so I can self-destruct." The look on his face was filled with murderous intent as he raised the crossbow and aimed with one eye closed, preparing to shoot. "This is my home. You act as if you are the masters and bossing others around. It really seems like you no longer want to live." Zhang Yi pulled the trigger. An arrow was immediately shot out through the small square gap in the door, hitting your Sun Zichao's shoulder, causing him to cry out in pain. The other 2 saw that the situation was not good, so they quickly helped Sun Zichao, who was limping, to leave. "Let's go first. Zhang Yi really wants to kill us. There will be no shortage of firewood on the mountain. Let's retreat for now." Then 2 more arrows were simultaneously shot out, targeting the other 2. They both got hit. Lin Shui-ning and Wu Ting, realizing that the plan had failed, immediately ran after them. "Wait, don't leave me behind. Wait for us, Sister Wang." In the cramped room, they gathered together to examine the wounds caused by the arrows. Wang Min observed the location where the arrow had struck and exclaimed in panic, "These arrows are all rusted." Sun Zichao and the junior guy were so angry that they gritted their teeth and clenched their fists. That little turtle is really malicious. He deliberately used rusted arrows to torture us. Without antibiotics and getting hit like this in this kind of weather, we can only wait to die. Sun Zichao trembled at the thought of the possibility that he might not survive. No way. How did it come to this? Wang Min raised her hand and slapped Wu Ting hard, angrily shouting, "Son of a bitch, it's all your fault. Didn't you say that his house was only hard to break into through the door? Why are there arrows then? Did you already know, which is why you ran so far?" Wu Ting held her swollen cheek, red from the recent slap, her eyes brimming with tears. "I don't know either. The previous 2 times we went there, he didn't use a name to attack us." Zhao Ping intervened to defend Wu Ting. "Cousin, don't be like that. I can testify. Wu Ting really doesn't know." Sun Zichao touched the wound on his shoulder. "Now we are injured. Generally, someone should take care of us. Hurry up and come help." While everyone was checking the wounds again for those who were hit by arrows, Wang Min picked up her phone and said to herself, "With injuries this severe, we can only seek help from Dr. Zhao." Zhao Kainai bent down to assess the situation of the wounds. Zhao Ping said, "Dr. Zhao, our lives depend on you." Zhao Kainai was surprised. "Another arrow wound." Wang Min asked back, "Is there someone else who got hit by an arrow?" Kainai replied, "No, it's a previous patient of mine from the hospital." After searching in the toolbox for a while, she said, "The wound is too deep. Unless there are specialized tools for surgery, I can't be sure. A simple treatment or pulling the arrowhead out could lead to infection. Without antibiotics for treatment, then." Wang Min sat dejectedly with his face in his hands, a bit in disbelief. Zhang Yi is really cruel. He must have done it on purpose. How could he be so heartless? Even if we take his room, we wouldn't take his life. Zhou Kai and I recognized the name Zhang Yi immediately. Zhang Yi, he is one of the locals here. I think I've encountered him a few times before. It turns out these injuries were caused by him. Zhou Kai and he stood up, took the toolbox, and was about to leave. In general, it's clearly very dangerous to pull out the arrow without medicine. I hope everyone can understand. Wu Ting suddenly seemed to remember and said deliberately, I remember Zhang Yi's family. A month ago, I saw someone deliver a lot of medicine to his house. Wu Ting rested his chin on his hand and began to sift through his memories. A month ago. At that time, Zhang Yi seemed to become a different person, frantically hoarding supplies at home. Almost every day, we could see delivery trucks bringing goods to him. There was one time when a pharmaceutical company's vehicle came to the building and Zhang Yi went out to greet them. Zhou Kaine replied, Antibiotics are not rare medicine. If he really knew in advance about the disaster and hoarded supplies, then he would definitely have a lot of antibiotics and fever reducers. Sun Zi Chao, feeling desperate, exclaimed, Then let's go find Zhang Yi quickly. My injury was caused by him. Tell him to give me medicine to save me. The other person sighed, completely exhausted. I feel like I'm about to die. You all hurry up and think of something. Wang Min, surprisingly calm, said, We were just chased away by him. How can Zhang Yi possibly give out medicine to save them now? Wu Ting continued confidently. We haven't harmed him. Moreover, we intended to leave some supplies for Zhang Yi after breaking into his house. It's him who acted cruelly without understanding. We are the reasonable side, so what is there to be afraid of? Wang Min, after hearing this, did not want everyone to take risks because of Wu Ting's plan. He pointed directly at Wu Ting and said, This matter is up to you to handle. Since it is your suggestion, and moreover, Zhang Yi has previously pursued you, you are the most suitable person to deal with it. Sun Zai Chao added, That's right, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be injured. Wu Ting looked at Zhao Ping with a pleading gaze. He couldn't help Wu Ting either, it all depended on her now. Everyone living on would ensure her safety. Wu Ting was pushed into a corner with no way out and could only reluctantly accept. I will try my best. They then said, Dr. Zhou, please help us remove the arrow first. Just be vigorous about it. As soon as the arrow was pulled out, painful screams filled the air. Wu Ting stood in a corner and called Zhang Yi. On the other end of the line, Zhang Yi's voice came through. Oh, what's going on? Wu Ting pretended to cry on the phone, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling. Zhang Yi, Lu Tao is dead, and Zhao Ping's group has also been shot by you and is about to die. If they die, they die. Sooner or later, we all die. He was holding a knife, intending to cut the large piece of meat in front of him. If you really think you can survive this snowstorm. He slashed down with a knife, thinking to himself, the heavy snow has completely blocked the city. This apartment building has already been completely isolated. So what if we can barely survive for now? What will happen when the supplies run out? Those who remain, even if they are not killed by Chen Zhenghao, will freeze or starve to death. Wu Ting continued her fake crying, wiping her tears with one hand. Zhang Yi, I know I was wrong. It's all my fault for not reciprocating your feelings. I will change. Can you forgive me? The group of Zhao Ping has been injured by your shooting. There are no medicines at home. They will die of infections. Seeing the scrutinizing gazes of everyone else in the room directed at her, Wu Ting trembled and continued to speak. Didn't you buy a lot of medicine before? Please, I beg you to lend us some. I assure you that we won't bother you anymore in the future. Wang Min, losing patience, snatched the phone from Wu Ting's hand. Zhang Yi, everyone is in a dangerous situation. Moreover, there is that monster Chen Zhenghao killing people. We need to keep a way out. Don't be too cruel. There may come a time when we will need your help. Zhang Yi continued cooking obliviously, not caring about her words. Too cruel. Then guess why I have to use the rusty arrows to shoot them? He smirked wickedly. I want to see them infected with their wounds, slowly in pain, tortured by illness and despair until they die. The corpses of your buddies are still lying in front of my house, not yet taken away. How can I not care? This grudge is destined to result in someone's death. Help you, so you could come back to take revenge on me later? Wang Min said irritably. We're not that kind of people. Stop talking, it's really not interesting. Besides, considering I once had some feelings for Fang Wu Ting, I might still think about letting her come here alone. As soon as Wu Ting heard this, she immediately changed her attitude, snatched the phone from Wang Min's hand, her eyes shining brightly, excitedly said, Mr. Zhang Yi, let me stay in your house. In the future, I will be your woman. Whatever you want me to do, I will obey you, can I? Zhang Yi smiled. Okay, come over here. Lin Shenning saw that Wu Ting seemed to have successfully convinced Zhang Yi, so she moved closer. Take me too, take me too. Zhang Yi continued. But Wu Ting, the one I love is only you. You must keep your distance from those useless people. Don't let them drag us down, okay? Wu Ting cheerfully replied, I will obey you in everything. I will listen to you completely. As soon as the words ended, she happily turned around, intending to leave. I'll be right there. Just wait for me a moment. Lin Shining hurriedly grabbed Wu Ting's hand, but was pushed away forcefully by her. Get away from me. Don't stop me from going to Zhang Yi's house. I had enough of these days. Wang Bin immediately lunged forward, giving Wu Ting another slap, scolding her as she did. You are truly shameless, causing us to suffer like this, and now you think you can just leave? Don't even dream about it. Zhao Ping spoke from a distance. Wu Ting, how can you treat him this way? Didn't you say you hated Zhang Yi the most? You want to be his woman? At this moment, Wu Ting revealed her true face and shouted back. What's wrong with me pursuing my own happiness? Being with you all is only temporary. When everyone has used up their resources, won't we just be waiting for death? Hearing these words left Zhao Ping speechless. Seeing Zhao Ping in shock, Wu Ting stepped forward to act, tearing up and clasping his hand. Zhao Ping, you are a good person, but to love someone means wishing for their happiness, doesn't it? Although you helped me before, can what you gave me really compare to what Zhang Yi offers? At this point, Zhao Ping crumbled, sitting down on the floor in shock. Wang Bin approached, trying to help Zhao Ping up. Cousin, don't be angry with this shameless woman. Keeping our lives safe is the most important. Lin Shining also chased after her, trying to grab Wu Ting's hand again. Fang Wu Ting, what right do you have to take all the good for yourself? Lin Shining pinned her down to the ground, preventing Wu Ting from leaving. Wu Ting was immobilized and panicked, shouting loudly, Let me go! Get away from me! Let me go! Let me go! Wang Min pointed directly at Wu Ting's face. You see, this kind of woman only thinks about herself and not about others. Keep a close watch on her, don't let her escape. Before leaving, Zhou Kai Nai turned back and said, What we just did was only a temporary measure. Without medication, there is a high likelihood of infection later. You all need to be mentally prepared. Sun Zai Chao suddenly spoke up. I have a way to deal with Zhang Yi. He habitually pushed his glasses up on his nose. There are heated walls in Zhang Yi's house, which means he has stockpiled a large amount of fuel. Furthermore, in the video, the food in his house is abundant. Clearly, we cannot take down Zhang Yi at the moment. However, if we spread this information so that everyone in this apartment building knows, a few hundred people along with the crazy dog Shen Zhenghao can come together to raid his house, and we can also benefit from this. Wu Ting spoke up in agitation. You are all so shameless. I will live with Zhang Yi from now on. What am I supposed to do if you ruin him? Wang Min raised her hand as if to hit her again. All this is because of you, and now you're making a fuss here. Zhao Ping's voice echoed. Stop! Wang Min saw Zhao Ping standing between the two, shielding Wu Ting, and felt annoyed. Zhao Ping, a shameless person like her, has harmed me to this extent, and now she's jumping into another man's arms while still protecting her. Zhao Ping remained determined to defend Wu Ting, not allowing her to speak about her like that. I really love Wu Ting. As long as I take the time to move her, sooner or later she will love me. Zhao Ping turned to Wu Ting and said, Don't be afraid, I am here. Wang Min irritably turned away. Useless dog, let the two of you find a way to survive on your own. She immediately sent a message to the apartment group chat. Dear niggers, it just hit me that there are actually people living happily during this time. Such selfish behavior is truly the epitome of shamelessness, accompanied by all the delicious food photos that Zhang Yi had sent them before. These are photos and videos from Zhang Yi's home. Just think about how we are living these days compared to him. Is this fair? Let's discuss how we should handle this situation. Chen Zhenghao glanced at the pictures and drooled, and the junior guys beside him felt the same. Brother Zhenghao, what about this? Chen Zhenghao thought, this kid's house has so much stuff, maybe I should check on him. The photo just posted in the chat group has sparked a frenzy. Everyone is trying to persuade Zhang Yi to help to share the supplies from his home. Everyone is living so hard now, about to freeze to death and starving. You have so much food at home and even heating walls. Share a bit with everyone. That's right, everyone will remember your kindness. We hope you don't forget what is good or bad. Mrs. Lin also spoke up, using her position as the neighborhood committee chairwoman and being the eldest in this apartment building. Request Zhang Yi to hand over the supplies to her to share with everyone. Si Lai Mai lamented, My child and I are about to starve to death. Did you used to praise my child for being adorable? Please save us. I can let my child call you Godfather. Even if you have other requests, we can accommodate them. Su Hao also began to plead. As long as you let me live in your house, I can give all my possessions to you. My father is already dead, and the several $billion of my family's assets could all go to you. Zhang Yi chuckled softly. Based on what am I very familiar with you? He glanced at his reflection in the silver plate. Before you treated me the same way, viewing me as a piece of meat on the chopping block, slicing me piece by piece. Who would reason with a bunch of animals that have lost their minds? Sun Zai Chao found the results insufficient. Is that kid really not afraid of death? With each of us spitting just once, we could drown him. Mrs. Lin was furious. This kid really amounts to nothing. At this point, he still wants to enjoy life on his own. Su Hao also thought that Zhang Yi was indeed a bastard like water flowing over a duck's head. Wait until I get through this snowstorm, I will definitely deal with you. All the harsh criticisms and insults from the surviving people were directed at Zhang Yi. Don't you have any humanity? We've all been neighbors for many years. Isn't it natural to help each other? What's the point of living alone? Young people shouldn't only think of their own comfort. You need to know how to contribute. If it weren't for you hiding information and secretly hoarding supplies, how could we end up in today's situation? Exactly. Everyone is in such dire straits now. It's all your fault. You have to atone for it. Zhang Yi filled a glass with red wine, leisurely drinking while enjoying the view outside. On the table was a plate of still hot food, and his phone kept buzzing with message notifications. Staying home every day is quite boring. Maybe I should go out sometime. Zhang Yi suddenly remembered that he had a few snowmobiles in his garage. Well, I can't leave now. With these later on, when it's safe, I can go out and enjoy some fresh air. Zhang Yi suddenly heard the sound of the phone ringing. Looking at the screen, it was a message from Zhou Kai Nai. In the message, she politely said, "Mr. Zhang, my food and medicine at home have all been used up." Zhang Yi felt that Zhou Kai Nai was indeed someone working in the medical field, very rational. She was not the type to deliberately beg but wanted to exchange fairly. He remembered a memory from his previous life. In his previous life, Zhou Kai Nai died because she had given the last portion of food to Xi Lai Mai and her child. She seemed cold, but at critical moments, she was much more enthusiastic than many people around her. He thought for a while that perhaps it would be good to keep her around to take care of him. It's just a pity that the smarter a woman is, the easier it is for her to betray. Zhang Yi stretched as he was also very afraid of death. However, he still had to think more. Although Zhao Kai Ni could indeed think clearly, he could not let her into the house unless he was 100% sure. He then sent a reply message. "Would you like to exchange? At least you must provide something that is currently useful to me." Zhou Kai Ni continued, "Can we consider this as a consultation fee for the health check? I truly can't hold on any longer." Zhou Kai Ni's cheeks flushed red, her mood sinking. She had never had to beg a stranger like this. Zhang Yi sent a voice message. "I can provide you with food and medicine, but in return, you eat to help me." Zhou Kai Ni asked suspiciously, "Help with what?" Zhang Yi's request was very simple. The neighbors would soon lose their patience and find a way to attack me. Therefore, Zhang Yi wanted Zhou Kai Ni to help him monitor their plans and report to him at all times. "Dr. Zhao, betray them to join me, or continue to sit back and watch like the crowd. It's entirely your choice." Zhou Kai Ni answered without hesitation, "I agree with you." Zhang Yi smiled smugly. "Very good. The fish has taken the bait." Zhou Kai Ni moved towards the window and listened to him continue. "You must get useful information from me in exchange for what you want. After that, you should know what to do." She pondered. "I understand." Then she stared blankly at her phone screen for a long time. In the group chat, notifications of new messages started popping up. "Zhang Yi, where are you? Give us an answer. Are you supplying the materials or not?" Zhang Yi rubbed his chin, noticing that they were beginning to show their true nature. "If I burned everything in the house, it wouldn't be your turn to share anything." Sun Zai Chao gritted his teeth in anger. "You're close to death, yet still so defiant. Let's see how long you can remain arrogant." Chen Zhenghao was the first to step up to quell the unrest in the group. "Everyone, our top priority now is to deal with Zhang Yi. The supplies in his house are probably more than all of us combined. If we can overthrow him, we can obtain a large amount of supplies. So everyone, there's no need to worry. I won't be touching anyone else for now. For this operation, the supplies we gather must be split with me 50-50. Sun Zai Chao seemed ready to shout at the phone screen. "Exactly, everyone should temporarily put aside past grievances. Our primary goal now is to infiltrate Zhang Yi's house and reclaim the supplies that belong to the group." Wang Jiguang and Zhou Kai Ni, upon receiving this news, thought these people had gone mad. They had to report back to Zhang Yi immediately. After receiving Zhou Kai Ni's message, they planned to come to your house. "Ah, got it." Zhou Kai Ni was puzzled by Zhang Yi's indifferent attitude, so she asked. They went crazy after watching the video. "Everyone is preparing to go to your house. Don't you have any countermeasures?" Zhang Yi replied to her with a voice message. "This time, don't come here. Remember, I only reminded you once. After that, just wait and see the drama unfold." A little while later, Chen Zhenghao's group, along with the remaining survivors, rallied together, shouting Zhang Yi's name as they marched. Everyone was armed and ready to kill him. They wanted to take down the selfish, shameless Zhang Yi. His death would be of his own making. Death is worth it. Just return the result, no explanation needed, nothing else. No useless quotation marks or punctuation, unless necessary. Quickly, they gathered into a crowd in front of Zhang Yi's apartment, using a large wooden hammer to pound on the door while shouting, "Zhang Yi, come out here now. If you don't want to die, this is your last chance. Don't make us break in because by then, it will be too late to say anything." Sitting inside the room, observing the commotion outside, Zhang Yi sneered. Sun Zi Chao and Chen Zhenghao are such good friends, sending those foolish people to their doom in the front. What a bunch of idiots. He pressed a button to activate the high-voltage defense mode. The man outside with the hammer was still hitting fervently. "Zhang Yi, come out here now." Suddenly, a powerful surge of electricity coursed through him, spreading to those around him, causing them all to be electrocuted simultaneously. It's high voltage, get away. When the electricity was finally considered to have been cut off, only a few charred bodies remained piled up haphazardly. The others looked at the scene in shock and hurried back to Chen Zhenghao, anxiously saying, "Brother Zhenghao, there's high voltage at Zhang Yi's door, several people." Before he could finish, Chen Zhenghao aimed his gun at his head and sternly asked, "So where are you planning to go?" Sun Zi Chao clenched his fist, determined to say, "Zhang Yi is no longer human. He dares to kill his own neighbors. We must kill Zhang Yi to avenge those who have sacrificed." Everyone was uplifted and on high alert. "Don't be afraid, everyone. Use wood to break down the door. He doesn't have any tricks left. He's already collapsed. If we can break this door, behind it is a warm fireplace and plenty of food waiting for us." The others immediately changed their attitude, feeling more resolute than ever in their intent. Everyone thought to themselves, after enduring hunger and cold for over half a month, as long as we can get inside this door, find food in a warm room, it will be worth dying for. The sound of breaking the door continued to echo. They gathered their strength to lift a large log, repeatedly attacking the door in front of them. They shouted in unison, "Brothers, hit it! Open the door and kill Zhang Yi." Zhang Yi sat inside the house, hearing the noise and feeling it was deafening. He yawned. How much longer are they going to make this noise? Then he picked up the remote control and pressed the button to turn on the loudspeaker in the house. "Keep going. I'll play some music for you." Outside, they were stimulated and shouted even louder. "You won't be so arrogant for much longer. We will kill you immediately. You're definitely going to die today. You must pay for my brother." They pounded on the door, but it remained unmoved. "It's no use." They all lay on the ground, panting heavily, drenched in sweat. The door didn't budge at all. What on earth was going on? Despite putting all their strength into it, they had barely chipped off a bit of paint from the door. Why was this door so solid? At this rate, how long would it take to break through? One of them, well-dressed and seemingly of higher status, used a magnifying glass to examine the door, discovering that it was a security door to the bank's vault. His workplace also had doors like this, and they immediately lost morale. Holy shit, is this door impenetrable? The other person sighed in frustration. Don't even think about using wood to break it. This top-notch security door wouldn't budge, even with a bomb. Unless there's a world-class locksmith, there's hardly any hope of opening it without a key. Zhang Yi, on the other side, poked the tip of a crossbow bolt through a small opening in the door, aiming at the bank employee who was talking. With a whoosh, the arrow flew through and struck him directly in the throat, silencing him. Seeing this, everyone quickly shouted, "He's armed, be careful." The crowd immediately gathered, pushing and trampling over each other as they fled. The scene was chaotic, with everyone running in different directions. "Why are you pushing me? Did your head hit something? Clearly you pushed me. Stop pretending to be noble. Be careful. I might kill you first." Sun Zi Chao was pressed against the wall by an arrow, not daring to move, and could only exclaim, "Holy shit, Zhang Yi, just wait to die." The corpses of those shot by Zhang Yi lay scattered everywhere, and those who were still able to run were shouting in anger. "Devil, piece of trash, you're no longer human. Why don't you go to hell?" Sun Zi Chao still had enough courage to speak up. "Everyone, don't worry, I have a plan." The man wearing black glasses placed his fist on the wall of Zhang Yi's house, smiled slightly, and said, "Its house is made of alloy, so we can't break through it, but the wall of his house is not." Everyone there laughed with glee and said, "That's right, why didn't I think of that? With so many of us, it won't take long to break down this wall." Next, these people took out wooden hammers from somewhere and began to hit Zhang Yi's wall. Sun Zi Chao said joyfully, "That's it, that piece of trash, Zhang Yi won't be able to smile anymore." A person had smashed a part of the outside, but when it came to the inside, there was something harder. He raised the hammer high and struck it, thinking that just one more hit would destroy the wall and allow him to enter. But unfortunately, this thing was too hard, and he couldn't break it. He grimaced and exclaimed, "What? Why is it so hard?" He clutched his hand, appearing to have hurt a little from the recent blow. Sun Zi Chao approached and touched the sturdy object, then exclaimed in panic, "What the hell? This wall is made of iron." The people behind him looked furious and began to angrily say, "Why is this happening? Who uses iron to build their walls?" Another equally angry person continued, "I don't believe the entire roof is made of iron." They then began to use picks, shovels, and axes to strike other parts of the room with difficulty. Zhang Yi, inside with a glass of wine in hand, proudly resting his hand on his head, said, "If you could think of this issue, how could I overlook it? The outer walls of this room are reinforced with a super hard metal material 200 millimeters thick. Even a bong can't break it. With just your rusty iron hammers and axes, you can do nothing." He walked over to his table, set down the glass of wine, and while activating the noise reduction feature, said, "Keep trying. Aside from increasing useless consumption, it's entirely pointless." A red-haired guy outside, feeling frustrated, put his hand on his forehead and asked, "Why is this happening? Why would someone renovate their house like this?" The blonde guy, looking confused, added, "Earlier, we saw him renovating, but we didn't expect it to turn out like this." Sun Zhai gritted his teeth, looking extremely angry. He shouted, "Zhang Yi," and pointed at the others, saying, "He must have known there would be a snowstorm. Everything he did was to prepare for us." Everyone was extremely angry and said, "Son of a bitch, only thinking about yourself and not considering everyone else." Someone asked, "If we all died, then what meaning is there you're living alone? If there is only one person left in the world, won't you feel very lonely? Can you even sleep at night? Don't you feel guilty?" A young man knelt down, placed his hands on the ground, and cried desperately, shouting, "There will come a day when you, because you didn't help us today, will feel self-blame and regret for a lifetime." Chen Zhenghao held a gun in his hand, and although his face showed clear fear, he still said, "What are you worried about? This is just the beginning. Even if his walls are made of iron, there are still a floor and ceiling, right?" The faces of those young men began to smile again. He ordered everyone, "Split it into 2 teams for me. I don't believe he can make a box out of iron." Then everyone divided into 2 groups. One group went up, the other group went down, continuing to hit the floor and ceiling of Zhang Yi's house with those tools. Zhang Yi heard the loud noise, stood up, laughed disdainfully, and said, "Chen Zhenghao's brain is quite smart, but too bad I am not an idiot." The people who were trying to break through the ceiling above also found a layer of iron. They knelt down and asked in confusion, "No, it can't be. How do we get in like this?" There was a similar situation below. One person said, "It's the same down here. Above, below, and all around are alloys. Zhang Yi's house is simply a sealed metal box with no cracks." At this moment, everyone was utterly exhausted and freezing cold in the snow outside. They all plopped down, unable to bear it any longer. One of them sighed, "I'm so hungry, it feels like I'm about to starve." Then, looking at someone in front of him, dark thoughts crossed his mind, saliva dripping. "That's right, isn't that meat?" Now, no one could endure it any longer. They looked at each other with greedy eyes, saliva trickling from the corners of their mouths. Then someone glanced away, awkwardly saying, "Ha ha ha, it's getting a bit hot from working so long." The other replied, Exactly, I'm exhausted." Sun Zhai placed both hands on his head, sweating profusely. His pale face filled with confusion said, "Is it really hopeless?" He then knelt down, removing his glasses and placing them on the floor, supporting himself with his injured hand, looking up and crying out in pain, repeatedly asking, "Zhang Yi, Dan, can your survival compare to our many lives? Sacrificing yourself, what good is that? How could that help?" Another boy came over and shared his thoughts. "Maybe we could check the balcony." The girl next to him also said, "When he renovated, he converted the balcony into a floor-to-ceiling window. Most of the area is a door. There might be a chance to break in." Hearing this, everyone inside became excited. One of them stood up, raised both hands, and said, "A window. If there is a window, there must be an exit. We can't seal off all the corners." Another young man joyfully said, "As long as there is a window, we can break in, ha ha ha." Then they found a piece of wood wide enough to cross over to Zhang Yi's balcony, armed with weapons in hand, and boldly approached. Zhang Yi was sitting on the sofa enjoying hot tea. He looked at the noisy crowd gathered densely on his balcony and thought to himself, if there really are zombies, they probably look just like these people right now. The people outside raised their weapons, angrily banging on the door and threatening. "Zhang Yi, if I break this glass door, you are definitely dead. Son of a bitch, selfish people. You won't be able to be arrogant for much longer. Today is your day to die. So much delicious food, all of it belongs to me. All of it." Zhang Yi got up and walked towards the kitchen. He took a piece of paper, put it in the neck of a bottle of liquor and lit it, then said, "It won't be long before you can't scream anymore." Zhang Yi put it into some hole and sneered, "Let me warm the cold, dead souls. Don't forget to thank me." From above the heads of the people standing on the balcony, Zhang Yi created an opening. Everyone looked up in surprise. There was something on top. A young man stood right where the bottle was about to fall, suddenly realizing the danger but unable to dodge in time. As a result, he caught fire. The people around panicked and quickly moved away. The person being burned cried out in pain. Ah, fire, fire. Then he fell down onto the balcony. At that moment, he looked like a fire phoenix soaring, and the flames began to spread from one person to another on Zhang Yi's balcony. They arrived in agony. Zhang Yi smiled with satisfaction at the scene before him and ignited another bottle. He sneered. Falling to death must be easier than being burned to death. A man in pain from the intense heat of the flames shouted, "Help me! Help me!" Zhang Yi, indifferent to their lives or deaths, coldly replied, "Feeling warm yet?" The people engulfed in flames raised their hands pleadingly from the other side, crying out desperately, "Help me! I don't want to die. Please!" They walked on the wooden board to return to where they had come from. Sun Zai-Chao, terrified, swung his hammer and shouted, "Get away! Get away from me! You look like you can't be saved anymore. Don't drag us down with you." Sun Zai-Chao swung the hammer and said, "Don't come over. You're beyond saving." Another person next to him said, "If the fire spreads to us, what should we do? Get down." Those coming from the fire wanted to plead for help but were treated inhumanly. They fell down below, facing a death both searing from the flames and cold from the falling snow. Some of the burned individuals did not fall. They died on Zhang Yi's balcony, while others died the moment they arrived to seek help. The indifferent people showed no mercy for this death. Instead, they were pleased to have the flames to keep warm. They laughed and said, "It's so warm." After warming up, they decided to throw away the remaining corpses on the way and the weapons, then walked to Zhang Yi's balcony once again. They even stepped on the arm of the person who had just been burned to death. A man knelt before the balcony of Zhang Yi, placed his hands on the door, and pleaded, "I'm starving. Please save me. Even just a pack of instant noodles would be enough." Others, with pale and gaunt faces, came over and touched the glass door, pleading earnestly, "Please, we were in the wrong. You have so much food at home. Share some with us. In the future, whatever you want us to do, we will obey." Zhang Yi held a bowl of hot noodles in his hand, smiled, and said, "Everyone, don't do this. It's quite unpleasant to see." He lifted a noodle with his chopsticks and continued, "If I feel uncomfortable in my heart, I will want to eat." His action made those outside look in, drooling and craving. Zhang Yi put the bowl of noodles down on the table, stood up, and said, "I give you another chance." Zhang Yi's face darkened, his smug expression shifted as he began to state his request. "Now, whoever brings me Chen Zhenghao's head will get to eat instant noodles like this for a week and will have a full meal every time." Upon hearing Zhang Yi, the group quickly turned to Chen Zhenghao, who was standing there confused, holding a pistol with his subordinates. He wondered, why are they fighting anymore? Did Zhang Yi say something to them? Those people returned by the old path, their bloodshot eyes staring at Chen Zhenghao. He and his two henchmen noticed something was off. Chen Zhenghao turned his back, pointing his gun at the approaching group and shouted, "What do you want? Get out of here." He pressed himself against the wall, positioning his two henchmen in front to block those people. With one hand holding the gun pointed forward and the other holding his phone, he saw a message from Zhang Yi who texted, "Whoever can kill Chen Zhenghao, I will provide food for that person for a week." Seeing this, Chen Zhenghao became anxious. "Shit, son of a bitch, now he's drawing attention to me." Chen Zhenghao decided to run to protect his life. He turned to leave. Sun Zai-Cha asked in confusion, "Wait, what will Zhang Yi do if you leave?" Chen Zhenghao angrily replied, "Damn, he can't even break down the wall. What else can we do? Go back and think of a plan." The next day, the two who heard Zhang Yi's demands the previous day made a plan. They stood in the hallway where Chen Zhenghao was to observe. The person standing behind felt somewhat anxious and asked, "Do we really want to do this? How many people has Chen Zhenghao killed already? Can we take him down before he fires?" The other reassured, "We're already here. What else is there to say? If we keep going without food like this, we'll starve to death anyway. How long can we hold off against one Chen Zhenghao? Taking a gamble might even get us food from Zhang Yi." When Chen Zhenghao stepped out, the person quickly fled. Chen Zhenghao was accompanied by two others, and he shouted, "Who are you waiting for? Moving as slowly as a turtle. Hurry up. If you're late again, bite the stone." He held a gun in his hand from behind and angrily told the two in front, "There's no shortage of food. Move faster." The two were determined to take Chen Zhenghao's life. Their faces were dark, and they held a knife. Knowing the moment had come, they ran quickly towards him. The bald guy in front of Chen Zhenghao seemed to sense danger. When he turned around, he saw the two raise their knives simultaneously behind Chen Zhenghao. The faces of these two looked like starving, fierce tigers. Chen Zhenghao was unaware, still pointing his gun forward. Finally, Chen Zhenghao turned around in time and shot dead the two who had just tried to kill him. He was panting heavily. The two bloody corpses created a large red puddle. Chen Zhenghao gritted his teeth and said, If you want to kill me, you should die first. Remember to cut it up a little for me. His two junior guys dragged the two corpses away. Another person stepped forward, saw Chen Zhenghao's back, and in fright told him, "Brother Zhenghao, you've been stabbed in the back." He cried out in pain. It was a long cut, and his blood was already spilling out. Zhenghao was helped into a room, one hand resting on the shoulder of the guy, while the other held the phone calling Zhao Kai Ni. "Dr. Zhao, I'm injured. Please come here and help me bandage it up." Kai Nei saw this and came right away. At this moment, she was bandaging Chen Zhenghao while saying, "I won't help you for free." The bald man was holding a basin of water with the hands of the two people from earlier on the table. Chen Zhenghao turned to look and teased Kai Nei. "I can share some of this with you." Kai Nei contemptuously replied, "No need. I would rather die than touch this." Chen Zhenghao lightly teased, "Then I wouldn't want to. Right now, in this world, there is a doctor who is too important to lose." On the other side were Chen Zhenghao's junior guys who were amused by that thing. After bandaging, Chen Zhenghao stood up to face Zhao Kai Ni, gently stroking her cheek with his hand, and insisted, "Don't worry. If there comes a day I must sacrifice you, I will keep you until the very end." The doctor did not feel grateful for Chen Zhenghao's words and actions. Instead, she coldly brushed his hand away, grabbed her bag, intending to leave when the bald guy and the blonde guy blocked her. She asked in confusion, "What you want to do?" Chen Zhenghao put on a warm coat, caressed his pistol, then smirked and replied, "Nothing. Before my wound is healed, you cannot leave here." Zhao Kai Ni could not confront a dozen strong men alone. She could only sit snugly in a corner of the room. Chen Zhenghao sat in a chair and said to his subordinates, "If this continues, it's not a solution. Those people outside are now daring to resist and causing us trouble." One of them replied, "Brother Zhenghao, we have attacked Zhang Yi's house several times, but we've failed each time." One person, feeling discouraged, said, "Its house is like a turtle shell. We can't break in." Then Chen Zhenghao ordered his underlings, "I don't believe you will come out. We'll move beside his house, take turns keeping watch, and wait for an opportunity to deal with him." Zhao Kai Ni was sitting there and heard everything. She stood up intending to leave when Chen Zhenghao spotted her and asked, "Dr. Zhao, where are you going so easily?" She turned back and coldly replied, "I'm going to the bathroom." Actually, the reason she went to the restroom was to text Zhang Yi and inform him. She messaged, "Chen Zhenghao is preparing to move beside your house to keep watch. Be careful." Zhang Yi replied to her, "Got it, you just keep observing the situation there."